Tonight at 301 pounds, ladies and gentlemen, Axel Rotten.
Here he comes, pompous one from London, England.
Well, as Mr. Fritzoid says,
Purple hair and all.
White. And obviously he's got his following here this evening. But you know, I want to take a minute, Mr. Axel, while he's parading around.
This is Axel Rotten coming your way, live in a living color in the UIW. I have a new precedent standard that I'm going to set right here, right now, in the UIW. Axel Rotten refuses to stand in the ring and have his hand raised while the rubbish competition is in the ring with him. From this day forth, when I hit you with the British bomb, all the rubbish will be discarded from the ring, and Axel Rotten will stand supreme above all as the true royalty in wrestling.
Nice guy.
Thank you all for joining us again this week on this episode of Pioneers of the Independent Networks. We've really gone through the gamut of emotions today.
Yeah.
Lots of good memories and lots of sadness over our loss.
Well, our journey's not done yet, Tim. We still got some ways to go. So we want you guys to strap in. We're going to bring you some more guests this week, and we're going to continue our retrospective look. First at the 25th anniversary of UIW television, and also our tribute to our fallen friend, Brian Knighton, you know as Axel Rotten. Stay tuned.
Oh, when you take a look at all that and you manifest it all together, we were really close. We were really close. Series of unfortunate events happens, the wheels fall off the cart, and UIW goes by the wayside. But in that interim, we drew all kind of national interest. A lot of it thanks to your input, Tim, and we are greatly appreciative of that.
There were a lot of fresh faces.
There was.
You certainly have to give credit to the new characters that were introduced to a television audience, the good wrestling that you saw. I mean, Max Thrasher was quite a talent.
Great heel.
One of the best. A lot of new talent was introduced. I think it was a great time for wrestling. It's just unfortunate that it came to the end that it did.
And it did. Now, and speaking of ends, and a lot of them are untimely, and a lot of the guys who had started there, I look at are pioneers, but they're no longer with us. And I always like to pay respect to those people, because we wouldn't have today's product without the way that these pioneers paved for everybody today. So I'm going to throw out a name or two and then chime in. When I think of UIW, I think of Neil, the Power Superior.
Yes. Yeah, Neil, he was a great guy. Him and his dad ran a promotion out of Hagerstown, and they took me on these overseas tours. They got some guy, some Mark, I don't know if it was a Mark, I just assume, out there in the South Pacific to sponsor these tours. This guy had money somehow. I went on like 3 tours of the South Pacific with a room with the Iron Sheik for 2 weeks. And
That story.
A whole hour on its own, but they had Kerry Von Erich, Don Morocco, Kamala, the Fantastics, Paul Orndorff, Larry Zabisco. I mean, all these huge names. That was like my first time. It's like 1990, maybe, working with all these big names. So Neil, because I had worked for him, in the area, they liked me enough to take me on those tours. Yeah. And that was like my first exposure to like working with superstars. But he was a super nice guy. Again, a shame what happened with him. His dad, super nice guy, great.
And to this day, his dad still promotes.
Still runs.
What's funny, when Neil left here, he went to South Atlantic Pro Wrestling, which they know a lot about, and a lot of fans out there know about. And South Atlantic, I think, was like, they were the South's UIW. They had their TV thing down there. They had their crew, and they had a rocket stuck up their butt. They were going. And it's like, we had the thing here in Baltimore, and somebody was going to get it somewhere. You know, it was going to come out eventually. But Neil was he was a great guy. It's just unfortunate. It's another one of our brothers that's gone, you know.
Another one of our brothers that were extremely innovative. One of the guys that when I first broke in, patterned myself after, because he had this thing that was called the hydraulic elbow. And it was an incredible jump and elbow drop that he did. I swear he had springs. He had hydraulics in his leg. A.J. Fritzoid, another fellow, another pioneer that's passed.
And that goes back to mine and Dave's roots, and along with Dave Coleman, that was North Avenue. But, you know, we say on a lot of these shows, without North Avenue, a lot of this stuff wouldn't have happened. The characters that you hear speaking about in current time for like UIW, we all came from North Avenue. Right. You know, we just floated around a little bit till we got sucked into whatever group was going on, and then boom, it was off and running. And usually anywhere you would see Axel, you would see Fritzoid, you'd see Dave, you'd see the other Dave, you'd see me, Morgus. You know, it may take a little while because maybe the person that's running the group may not like me, but eventually, first time Axel sees a chance, he brings me in. He brings Dave in. And we're all back together again. And it's hilarious because with all the different groups that we've went through in the years in Maryland, pretty much all of us have worked for all of them.
Yeah, and that was great. What I really liked about that, Axel had a good mindset for who to use at what time. Because a lot of times, I mean, he wanted to use me on a lot of shows, but I had commitments in Boston with Kowalski because that was my first, you know, he trained me, so I was there for him whenever he called me. So a lot of times Axel would call me to book me for shows, and I'm like, no, use one of the other guys. And then he'd call me back and tell me how good they did that night or whatever happened. But speaking of A.J. Fritzoid, I remember one night where he had such control of the audience and his psychology was great. Remember that match in North Avenue where he beat this guy in the ring, and the fans were like, he was a heel that night, and he beat the guy really bad. But as the guy started to come back to the dressing room, he beat him some more, and he said the more the fans booed him, the more he was going to beat this guy. And he beat him so bad, like just getting out of the ring, going back to the dressing room until the fans just totally got quiet because they didn't want him to beat the guy anymore. But it was, I was just standing out there watching this match, and it was just unbelievable how he grabbed a mic as he beat the guy. I said, the more you boo me, the more he's going to take an ass whipping. And he beat the guy, and the fans were like still making noise. But then as time went on, he had him. By the time he got this guy back to the dressing room door, the place was completely silent until the next match. And I was like, wow, that was just total control of the whole auditorium that night. And it was one of his greatest matches, but I always loved his smile, I loved his charisma, I loved everything that he did. And when I found out that he had passed, it really hurt me. I mean, I love these guys because we were truly brothers. And to find out that one's no longer with us, it just, you know, just does something to you. It's just like your family, you know?
And the thing with A.J. Fritzoid, I honestly don't think he was ever even trained by anybody.
Yeah.
He lived across the street from the gym and just showed up.
Right.
And would get in the ring and start doing these crazy bumps.
Do you remember the night that he broke his leg working? I think the girl's name was Angel. I'm not 100% sure on the girl's name. He breaks his leg in the ring training before I get there. As I get there, he's coming down this long flight of steps to go outside. Goes to the hospital, gets a cast put on his leg from his foot all the way up to his hip. By the end of the night, he was back in the ring in North Avenue.
This is the love of it.
You know, it's just amazing because you don't see that anymore.
No.
If you stiff somebody now in a school, you better hope you got a lawyer because if they think it's a little too stiff, they're going to be calling one. You know, it's nothing like what we went through, and thus the respect for the business from our age group versus today. Right. Everybody wants to be in TV or they want to be in commercials or they want to do this. That's not. Dick the Bruiser, Dick Murdoch, Dusty Rhodes, those are the people that we watch coming up. We wanted to be a pro wrestler, not a professional entertainer. Yep. Even though wrestling entertains people, we wanted to be pro wrestlers. And at that time, being a pro wrestler was like being a rock star because everywhere you went, people, they recognized you and they respected you. You know, I remember many times getting pulled over by the police for whatever violation we committed, and all they wanted was a picture. WCW was huge for that. Dothan, Alabama, it was 100 and some miles this way to come across a bridge to come back like 70 miles to the arena. We'd fly down there, get pulled over. The cop knew we were coming because they saw it on TV that wrestling was coming. sign a couple autographs for him, boom, and he forgets all about it, they're gone.
That's the platform that was built here. It absolutely was. People or people don't understand those early beginnings because we were the last portion of the territories. Even though we were indies, we were a territory. We worked in Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Jersey, Delaware. That was our circuit. I mean, we were all over the place. That was incredible. Speaking about a guy who everywhere he went turned heads, how about Golden Phoenix, Mark Fritz?
Yes.
Absolutely.
He just had that look.
Greek guy.
He had the
Greek
body,
god look.
the hair, the look. He was tan. He just had the look. Yes.
But the most amazing thing I thought about Mark, he knew nothing about the wrestling business.
Right.
He was a professional boxer. Right. He came in as a boxer, and I remember he got booked in a match at one time with Ivan Koloff. And he I forget who he went to first, but he goes, "Who's Ivan Koloff?" And we're all like,
"That was a ring show." I think was it
the actual show he wrestled on was MEWF. But but when he said it, we're all like, who is this guy? He doesn't know who Ivan is. Mind you, Ivan, Nikita Koloff, Crusher Khrushchev, Vladimir Petrov were hot off NWA TV. You know, because it's weird because back then when the names came to the indies, it was far and few between. So you didn't see like now it's flooded everywhere you go. There's names. Back then when you heard Ivan was coming, it was something special because you may not get a chance to see him for the other groups that are close. So everybody would come see Ivan. But Phoenix, Mark had no clue who he was. And here Ivan is a former Worldwide Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion. But it was cool because he learned, I think, going through those things because he didn't have the starstruck attitude. He was just there to get paid and work. You know, that's what he wanted to do.
Because I remember seeing the first time I saw him was actually one of Larry Sharp's WWA shows in New Jersey.
That's where he was trained, Monster Factory there.
Monster Factory, and he held the title there. Yeah. And then I saw him again in Maryland, and I was like, oh, and he remembered, you know, we had talked and all that, and you know, and again, here he won the title there, he won the UIW title, he won the WIN title. You know, he was the first champion of you know, UIW. And WIN.
He was really special. I mean, I remember the first time I saw him in the dressing room getting ready for a match, and I was like, who's this, you know, blonde kid with this nice body and golden tan, and I found out his name was the Golden Phoenix, and he was one of the wrestlers that I knew whenever I saw him on the card, I had to know what match he was going to be in because I had to make time to either get dressed real early so I could go out and watch him or just see what's going on with him because he was one of those guys that I didn't know if he was going to stick around long or if Vince was going to steal him right away because I always thought he was ready from the first moment I saw him. He just had the look, and I knew that at that time Vince could take someone that just had the look and make something out of him. But Mark, he was a great guy, and I mean, he just had it all to me. I think he was ready.
Even before the Golden Phoenix, he was an E-Man.
Right. He did a Maskatron.
Minotaur.
Well, he did that. He did Maskatron. There was
it was a couple
few other.
He was one of the guys in that age and time group, that time period, that there was something that just didn't click because he had the body, he had the talent, he did the moves. He wasn't always great at putting all the moves together. He needed support. He needed good, like, because when he worked with Max Thrasher, always a great match because Phil could put A, B, C, D right in order, make it make sense. Where Mark would get confused because I worked with him several times too. I remember one, I can even tell you the date, December 1st of '90, the Rock and Wrestling show at the Teamsters Hall that drew a big 40 people or something. But when I worked with him, 25 paid. When I worked with him there, it was we had all the right ideas, but putting it together was hard because I was another guy. I was a great follower, but the leading part was left to like the Axels and the guys. You know, if you tell me I can do it, but we got to put it in the right order. You know what I mean? And Mark was the same way. But he had the great body, had the great look.
That was it.
It was like, and in that day and time period in pro wrestling, unlike today, you can be 5'1" and be the heavyweight champion. Back then, you had to be 6'6", a Greek god, look good, you know, blah blah blah, and he'd have been perfect at WWF. Because he wouldn't have talked. He'd have just sat there and did what they told him.
And I think, too, the real good thing was he was the perfect foil for Max Thrasher. I mean, you want to talk about two guys that were absolute, here, you know, here was Mark, the, you know, tan bodybuilder, and then here was Max Thrasher, the biker, long hair gimmick. You know, those two guys, they were like constantly going at it, and that feud carried on
forever.
Everywhere
they went, the people went bananas.
And they loved it. Everybody loved it. It never got stale.
No.
It never got stale.
That was good. There was good creativity behind that. You and I, Tim, have talked about the Hair versus the Career. That included Dave the Wade. All the little vignettes with Dave the Wade. The lumberjack match. The match with the powder. They built and built and built, and they did
Fighting outside the ring.
Oh, the outside the ring. They got color when we weren't supposed to get color. So much was built into that. Care and reverence was taken in building that feud, and that's one of the high points if you look back at those feuds. Awesome stuff. Right. Another guy that I want to talk about is a personal favorite of mine. Again, another pillar, another pioneer in this movement. I think back to Dave DeMaglio, Dino Casanova, another man who's passed away very too early. With the Cream Team, Rip Sawyer. When I saw them work, they were fluid in motion, unbelievable.
They reminded me of a younger version of the Freebirds. You know, Michael Hayes and those guys when they would come through. And I mean, the Cream Team, they were just something special to watch, you know. And they just had like a magnet for women, no matter where they went.
The party never stopped with these guys.
Dave,
Cream Team
at that
was
time.
incredible.
Dave went to Parkville High.
Right.
So did I. He was a couple years ahead of me, and I remember there was some sort of senior show, and Dave came out with some other guys, and they did a wrestling skit on the stage, and like they did like a little match, and I thought that was the greatest thing, and that's when I was first getting into wrestling. I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And then Axel and I would found out that him and Sid were running those shows before we were ever involved in wrestling. Right. Those guys were already running little shows. Yeah. But he was another guy that was just like a natural. You know, I mean, I don't even know if he was ever trained. I don't know. I think he just.
I think he was trained by Max Thrasher,
Maybe,
or trained with Max Thrasher.
But
They were doing their own thing by the time I even got to
Sid both were just naturals, and I know years later I knew Bobby Fulton from working with Caracost, and Bobby would always speak highly of the matches the Fantastics had with them. They enjoyed working them because they were like such a great heel team. Yeah. They worked Rock and Roll Express. Right. They had great matches. I mean, they had great matches with everybody.
Right. You know? And they were one of the first teams. I had never heard about a team or a person holding multiple titles
at the same time. Exactly.
I mean, they were AWF champions. They were MEWF champions, and I think they were VWA champions at the same time.
Yeah, they were.
And they were running that circuit defending those titles, and I thought that was incredible. And I always thought, to me, they were what I call a balanced tag team. I mean,
they were great together.
Sid was more of the muscle, and Dave was a little more of the high flying, and I thought
finesse.
I thought that really meshed very well. And you could see it, you know, especially in their double team moves.
Yeah.
You know, you could definitely see that, and you know, because you see some teams like the Fantastics, who are obviously a great team, but they were definitely more high flying type team. Right. Even like the Rock and Roll Express, where if you saw on the other end, you saw a team like the Road Warriors, were definitely much more a power team.
Right.
You know, but I thought Dave and Rip were definitely the best of both worlds, if you want to call it.
They reminded me of a la the Midnight Express with all the double teams and the fluent motion of it. And after working with them, I worked with them several times. It was absolutely amazing to be in the ring with them.
Yeah.
They were great heels. But I'll tell you what, in Baltimore, they were great faces. The people were with them. If you had a card without the Cream Team, you really didn't have a card.
Right.
I mean, they had the fans right there in the palm of their hands. Those fans lived and died with Cream Team.
They did.
They had some very loyal.
They were.
They had personality. You know, they had charisma.
They did.
Which was something.
And you know, the funny thing is, too, I think they still work the heel gimmick. They still work.
Well, they didn't. There was no face change. There was no heel change.
But it was one of those things like
and they would say they're from the bad side of Baltimore.
Everybody loved. This was like what Jim Cornette told me about the Midnight Express in Philadelphia. They said they would heel it up so much in Philadelphia, and the fans would cheer. The more they healed, the more they cheered. And I think the Cream Team was exactly the same for Baltimore.
Yes, definitely.
When I take a look collectively, and now that we've gone an hour talking about this, I take a look collectively, and I see how close we were. The organization was starting to come into play. The television, the outlet through medias, the radio show that we didn't even touch on. The WRQR worker radio. I think it was a 680. that Axel did at that time period. We
And
had a lot
Larry
of outlets.
Larry Katz's show
Larry
was-
Katz's show. There were so many outlets nationally that we were right there. We were ready to take that step. But through a calamity of events, whatever they are, it's hard for any of us to put our finger on it because we're looking 25 years back. It didn't come to be. But we did set the cornerstone. We laid the groundwork. We laid the foundation for everything that's come since that period. They take a look back at those days and they bring us into the Hall of Fames and those types of things because certain folks today recognize what we've done. There's a few that still need to be recognized. I think Ed Zahn needs to go in. I think Tim Walker needs to go in. There's a few folks back in that time period that did so much more for the folks that were never in front of the camera, that were always behind the scenes. And I think that Jeff Amder, can you imagine?
He's been ringing the bell. He's ringing the bell for everyone. Every promotion that's ever been here.
So it's to those folks and to the men that are on our panel today that I tip my hat and I say thank you for creating lasting memories.
Yeah.
And I know the folks, the young guys today, look at us when we walk into those shows and they say, there's some pioneers. Those guys did. They might not recognize all the little things, but they realize that these guys are pioneers. And the good thing is sometimes today you see them pay it forward, which is extremely important. And that's why we do this show. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to take this minute just to say thank you to Dave and to Dave and to Tim and to Jeff and to Bob for being here, to presenting this information to our folks out there. And that's why we do PIN, because this is incredible information, incredible archive information that folks today need to know.
Must retire from Universal Independent Wrestling. First, introducing the challenger, 313 pounds, from Newcastle, England, Axel Rotten. His opponent, the current UIW heavyweight champion, 290 pounds, from the heart of Dixie, Johnny Stonewall Snowler.
This is the one we've all been waiting for, folks. The main event of the evening, the Lumberjack Scrap match. There you see the champion with the strap. The gold medal strap, that is. The UIW Heavyweight Championship, Johnny Stonewall Law.
Hey, Dave,
who is that?
Catch a look at Rasta the Voodoo Man.
My God.
All right, I do not know what that is supposed to be, but he's got it on his head. And
Axel
here comes...
not wasting any time. Not waiting for the bell. These men have a score to settle, folks, especially Axel Rotten. His former friend, compadre, partner, companion, Johnny Lawler, he turned on him, and now he's getting paid back.
Well,
already, Johnny stepped out of the ring. Maybe he forgot there were lumberjacks out there waiting to beat him.
I was going to say, Dave, the way... Oh, look out, and he's getting it already.
Imagine
they're hitting AJ Fritzoid.
Gave you times 7.
AJ Fritzoid really just moving right in there.
He's on in Axel's corner. Kind of surprised.
That's it. Former tag team partners there.
This is for the gold, folks. This is for the championship. Plus, that one stipulation, the ultimate sacrifice, loser must retire from wrestling.
And Johnny Lawler has welts rising on his chest and back from those straps outside the ring.
Johnny backing him into the ropes. Before this match even started, I could hear The Lumberjacks warming up in the dressing room.
Absolutely.
Those straps, they've been looking forward to this one just as much as the fans.
And Axel rolls Johnny Lawler off the top of the pin there. And I'm telling you, whoa, look at this. Got him up exactly. On that side of the ring are pounding. Now it's going all the way around the ring. Axel,
they want a piece of somebody like hungry dogs waiting for some fresh meat. The Lumberjacks await their victim.
And Axel looks to be in a bit of trouble here early in the match.
Johnny, driving elbow. UIW heavyweight champion.
And Axel rolls him off.
Maybe Rasta's going to start wrestling with that mask.
I don't know, Dave, the way, but that's one of the weird. Now there's surgeons over there with his surgical mask and cap on, so who knows?
Axel making a wish at the expense of Johnny Lawler.
And Dave, I take it there aren't too many illegal moves in this type of match.
Pretty much anything goes. There you see, well, that certainly will straighten out any kinks that Johnny might have had in his back.
Okay, Axel pulls him up by the hair, pushes him into the rope.
Irish whip. Across, boot, right to the face. A man that size. Got his leg up 5 feet in the air. Pretty amazing.
Axel can be very agile.
From Newcastle, England. You've seen him in WCW. You've seen him in Global. He's back here in the UIW now, trying to get some measure of revenge on the man who turned his back on him and literally stabbed him in the back. Got the fans behind him.
You got the fans, and it appears some of the wrestlers out there.
A lot of the Lumberjacks too. There you hear, they're starting to chant.
Okay, and that always does get Axel fired up. As if he wasn't ready to go as it was, but I mean, the chanting will work for Axel every time. He loves the fans. Oh, look out.
Johnny got out of the way, and Axel hit that hard steel turnbuckle. There's steel under those pads, Mike.
I know that, Dave the Wave, and boy, they can hurt.
Johnny Lawler in control, body slam.
Whooping, what's he doing here?
High-risk maneuver.
What's he doing? Oh, wait a minute. Adrian Hall gives him a shot to that pork butt.
Ooh.
Axel hits him.
He caught him.
Throws him down to the mat.
Axel mounting the second rope on the other side.
Here we go. I think Axel's going to take it from rope number 2.
Splash!
And he does it.
1, 2, 3. We got a new champion!
A new champion.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got a new champion!
A new Universal Independent Wrestling!
That's it, Axel says.
Champion!
Give me the belt!
Axel Rotten!
Say goodbye to Mr. Lawler.
That's right, the pork butt has been cooked. He's done. Stick a fork in him, he's gone, Dave the Wave.
Gone from the UIW, Axel Rotten, the new UIW heavyweight champion, getting an embrace.
Look at this, AJ Fritzoid decides to get a few shots.
And your new UIW heavyweight champion, Axel Rotten!
Fans are certainly happy about it. I know there's going to be a celebration in the dressing room after this one, Mike.
That's for sure. And there's Rasta the Voodoo Man as he walks off with that strange mask.
The new UIW heavyweight champion.
And there's the
his
British
fan
flag.
Club throwing him his flag.
Gets turned in there, ladies and gentlemen. And Axel Rotten.
The celebration begins.
Is the new UIW heavyweight champ. And as we said before, the pork butt is done. Stick a fork in him, he's gone.
I'm going to go get some champagne, Mike. We'll be back to wrap this one up, folks.
Wow, Tim, it's been a rough episode for us.
It has been.
Emotionally charged, Good to see so many people. The surgeon, Dave McCallister, Rasta the Voodoo Man.
It really was nice to see everybody today. Chad Austin, Jeff Capo. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope we all get together again very soon.
Under
I hope
different,
it's not under the same circumstances.
Much different circumstances.
One of my favorite referees of all time, Dave McCallister. It was just a great time. I want all to be able to sit down and talk to each one of them. But it's under such sad circumstances.
It is. We had fun putting the panel together, the UIW panel, with all of our special guests, being on location at Jad's, and Joe Carroll, 2 R's, 2 L's, opened his business up for us.
That was very nice of you. And we do appreciate that.
3 hours sitting and taping, and the patience that his folks and his staff had with us.
And then afterwards we had a nice meal.
Absolutely. So do yourself a favor. If you ever visit Essex, then you might want to stop into Jad's. You know, that's
very good.
Family-friendly environment, great food. I tell you, do yourself a favor, stop in there.
Good food, good portions.
Absolutely.
Good service. Thank you, Chris, our waitress.
Yes.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Joe, for sponsoring these last 2 shows and extending all your hospitality to us. You've really helped out.
Yep, opening doors to us. It was
all of us.
It was very kind.
The entire staff for that. So we thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, we hope you enjoyed these last 2 episodes on our retrospective look. We know it's been tough. Sometimes it was tear-jerking, sometimes we made you laugh. But all in all, we hope you walked away with the same sentiment that we did, that at that particular time and that particular place, there was a lot of good things. We were young kids, fresh-faced, bright-eyed, the future was bright for us, and we did something. We started something that was positive, and that's why on this show we portray it in that exact vein. It was a positive time in our lives. Thank you to all the men and women who did all that they did during that time to bring us into your living rooms when we were on television. Tim,
on WJZ every week. Thank you very much.
What you did in putting us in the magazines and the writing coverage that you took care of, the photographing, the photojournalism. Thank you for that.
Everybody says it's all about the fans.
It is.
And you know what, it really is.
And that's why we do this show.
Yeah, without the fans, it wouldn't be anything.
No. Well, next week, Tim, we're going to start a 2-part look at Donald Haviland, Hack Meyers. It's
another sad,
a little rough. It is
situation.
Sad. But 2 shows, we're sure you'll enjoy them. Don Hack was an incredible pioneer back there in the UIW days. He was probably got more TV coverage than anybody at that time. He was on every week. So that was pretty awesome, and it's good to sit back and think of those. We're young, as long as we have this archive footage, we'll forever be young.
Yeah, and later is Hack Meyers and ECW.
Oh yeah, lit the world on fire.
What a cult figure he was, and
absolutely,
and the fans really loved him. They really took a liking to him in Philadelphia, and that was a hard market.
Oh yeah,
to wrestle in, and I tell you what, he was great to the fans, and the fans were great to him.
Absolutely, and it helped him travel the world.
It did. Japan, Florida,
yep,
all throughout the states.
The Mediterranean,
all over the world, really. Yeah,
he did. He was a world traveler because of that persona, and because of the fans helping him get elevated.
Another just awful loss to
absolutely.
Wrestling
under different circumstances, medical reasons, and it was shocking to say the least.
But it was a good time when he came here and shot those 2 episodes.
Yes.
I think everybody will enjoy them.
I think so too. The words that, especially the second episode, are very haunting. So
yes, indeed.
So with good thoughts in mind and a grateful heart, we're thanking you for joining us, and we're hoping that you join us again next week. Tim, where are we strolling to?
We're strolling down that long, long concussion lane.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like I have a concussion.
After today, we do.
Hey, thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you again.